Assalamu alaikum story timers and welcome back to a whole new story time this week. I hope you guys are super excited to join us again because we have another prophet and another story to talk about. And this one you may have even heard about. Today and this week we're going to be talking all about Prophet Ibrahim and his sons Ismail and Ishaq, inshallah. So this is actually going to be a pretty short story. I don't think it's going to be as long as the other ones, but it's going to be just as fascinating as we look into the life and lessons of Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail and Ishaq, inshallah. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. You guys ready? I hope you're ready because we're gonna get started right now, inshallah. Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, and let's get started. So, Prophet Ibrahim was the prophet uh, born in part of the northern Arabian area, which was at this time early Mesopotamia. And Prophet Ibrahim's life is actually very fascinating and full of history. But right now, we're going to actually get started by talking about Prophet Ibrahim and his wife Hajar. So Hajar was actually, she used to be a worker. So she used to actually be a maid who helped to serve the king. But then, after a series of events, which we will talk about later, inshallah, Hajar was allowed to go and travel with Prophet Ibrahim, who married her. And shortly after Prophet Ibrahim married Hajar, they then had a son named Ismail. And after that, Prophet Ibrahim received a very special message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he had to go on a trip that would change the course of Arabia and Islam forever because it would eventually lead to the tribe that would lead to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So let's see how this all got started and what happened. So one day, Ibrahim alayhi salam woke up and asked his wife Hajar to get her son and prepare for a long journey. Now imagine how that was. You just wake up, you're sleeping, you're having nice dreams, and then all of a sudden, early in the morning, you're going to go, someone tells you that you're going to go on a long trip. Now, usually, if you're a kid, then that may be super fun. What are some places that you like to visit? Maybe you've gone on like a road trip in your car with your family and you've gone to see your family in another place or to a different state. Or maybe you've even gone on a plane and went to a different country. Have you been to a different country? What places have you been to? Well, as fun as that sounds, this was quite different because they did not know where they were going. And they were going to be traveling on a long and difficult trek. They weren't going in a nice, comfortable plane or car with amazing snacks. No, they were preparing to go on a long journey into the very hot desert. And if you are familiar, if you know about the desert, then you know that the desert is a place that is hot and dry and without any water. So this was not going to be quite an adventure, like a fun road trip. So after Hajar and her son starts to prepare for the journey, Ibrahim went out with his wife Hajar and their son. And the baby was still nursing with his mommy and was not yet eating food. He was drinking mommy's milk. Ibrahim walked through the land, the desert, and the mountains until he reached the desert of the Arabian Peninsula and came to an uncultivated valley. That means it's an empty valley without any trees or any fruits or any food. They were the only ones there. Can you imagine how that must feel? How would you feel if you were in a place that had no trees, no food, no fruits, not even any people or any water? Would that be scary? It may seem to be a little bit scary, but Prophet Ibrahim and his wife Hajar had great fear and trust in Allah, as we will soon see. So this valley had no sign of life. Nothing was living there, no plants or anything. After Ibrahim alayhi salam helped his wife and child to dismount from the horse that they were riding, he left them with a small amount of food and water, which was not even enough for 2 days. They had to survive in the middle of the desert with only enough food that may feed them for only about 1 day. Maybe it was like one meal and just a little bit of water right under the desert sun. He turned around after he left them there and made sure that they were comfortable. He turned around and just walked away. He didn't say anything. He didn't tell them where they were going. He didn't ask them anything. He just walked away. And his wife hurried after him. She rushed after him. She said, "Oh, Ibrahim, Ibrahim, where are you going, Ibrahim? Are you just going to leave us here in this barren valley without anything for me or your son?" Ibrahim just kept walking. He did not answer her or look at her. He just kept going. And she repeated her question again. "Ibrahim, Ibrahim, oh, Ibrahim, are you really going to leave us here? What are we going to do? Are you coming back? Where are you going, Ibrahim?" And still, Ibrahim went on in silence, not saying a single word or even looking at her, and he did not stop walking at all. Finally, Hajar understood. She asked him, she said, "Did Allah command you to do this?" Ibrahim alayhi salam simply said, "Yes." And then his wonderful wife, Hajar, said, "Then we are not going to be lost because Allah commanded you and He will watch over us." And this is very beautiful. We want to stop here and think about what Hajar just said. No matter what situation you're in, no matter how difficult or strange it may appear hopeless, but we have to remember that we don't know the future. Allah is the seer of all things, and Allah knows all things. So we must trust in Allah. And even when a command seems strange to us and we can't understand why we have to do it, we do it anyway. Ibrahim was not ignoring his wife Hajar, and he wasn't forgetting about his baby Ismail. Ibrahim was simply following the commandments of Allah and doing exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to do. Therefore, Ibrahim wasn't trying to be mean, but he was doing exactly what Allah told him to do so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be pleased with him. And this is something that we all have to do. We must all learn about the commandments of Allah and do exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do. So if Allah tells us to pray, we can't say, "Well, why do we have to pray? I don't think that we have to pray right now. I don't understand why." Or even if you have to wear a hijab, you don't say, Well, I don't understand why we have to wear hijab because it's not up to what we understand or how we see something, but it's up to us to follow the commandments of Allah because Allah is all wise and Allah knows all things, even the things that we do not know. The second lesson we take from this is to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trust in what He decrees and judges for us. We don't question after we know that Allah has commanded something for us. We accept it and we know that Allah is watching over us and Allah is going to take care of us. Even if the situation seems very difficult, and like this situation, they didn't have any water or any people to talk to or nothing at all, but Hajar understood Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded it and Allah would watch over them. Allah will not leave them in a hard situation. So if you're studying for a test and it seems really, really hard, or if you want something and you don't seem to be able to get it, or anything that seems difficult or strange to you, always remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching over you and Allah will take care of you and Allah will never leave you alone or abandoned. The last lesson that we want to take from this is what to do if our family and relatives are following the commandment of Allah. We don't disagree with our relatives when they're following the commandment of Allah. Hajar, when she saw that Ibrahim alayhi salam was following the commandments of Allah, she didn't get angry or shout at him or say bad words or anything like that. Even though she was confused and frightened, she didn't say anything that would hurt Ibrahim alayhi salam's feelings or make Allah displeased with her. And so when our family is doing something that is following the commandments of Allah, and if our family is doing something that is not causing us any harm, then we do not push and say bad words and say bad things to them, and we do not question them. We accept what they are saying. So if our mommies or daddies or even big brothers or big sisters tell us to do something such as to fast or to wake up and pray or to be respectful or to follow instructions, then we don't say, well, why? I don't want to do that, or that doesn't seem fair, or I don't like that. That's not something that we do because that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us. It's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us and have stated in His Quran and in His Sunnah. And therefore, we do not question those things. We have to be gentle and to respect our family and relatives and to follow the commandments of Allah that they are following. And that is better for us, inshallah. So we are going to stop here for now. And when we come back, we will find out, inshallah, what happened to Hajar and Ismail in the middle of this desert. Did Ibrahim alayhi salam ever come back for them? Where is Ibrahim going? What will happen to baby Ismail? And will they have enough food and water to last them until they get some help? We will find out all those things, inshallah, in our next story time. And before we go, remember that we always trust and follow the commandments of Allah. Understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching over us. And anytime if you are having a difficult time, even if you don't understand it, remember to turn to Allah and make dua, and then everything will be much better, inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan all of you for joining us in this story time, and I can't wait to see you again in the next one. Have a wonderful day, you all, and remember, keep studying all about your prophets and turn to Allah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.